Hello everyone, I'm Yogesh Singh. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Yogi's Data Lab. So in the last video, we saw about role and the importance of role in prompt. Today we are going to see another very important topic, which is context. We're going to look at exactly what is context prompting and how does context work, how does it give you better results, and what is the power of combining role and context. So what we have covered so far is the task, we have covered the role. Now today we are talking about the context. Now, what is context prompting? So, context prompting means you are providing the AI with the background information it needs to understand the situation before performing any task. So, we had given a task, so we had given a role. In the role, we went ahead and talked about seniority, we talked about the situation, we talked about how it has to respond. But I still didn't tell it about what is the story behind all of this. What is the context that I require? It needs to understand the context, it needs to use the role, and then it's just supposed to do the task. So it tells AI who is involved, what the environment is, and what has already happened, and what the goal ultimately is. So that is what is context prompting. In context prompting, there are 8 different types of context that you can go ahead and apply. The first one is audience. So basically, who will read, use, or act on the output. Audience determines the vocabulary, assumed knowledge, and the tone. It could be executive, it could be beginner, technical team, customer, regulator. So you are setting the context in terms of who is the audience. The next one is the domain or the industry. So what field, sector, or business area is this for? Uh, Domain activates the relevant terminology, norms, and assumptions. Similarly, the third one that you can apply is the data and the system description as to what data, what tools or systems are involved. The technical context shapes the approach, the code style, and the recommendation based on whatever you tell about the data and the system. Then you can go with the goal or objective. So, what is the underlying purpose behind the task? What do you want to achieve basically? So, the goal context ensures that the output is not just correct but useful. Then comes the experience level. Now, experience level is how much does the audience already know? Experience context controls depth, analogies, and assumed vocabulary. So you want the experience level of a fresher, a 3 to 5 years, senior, non-technical, PhD level. What is the experience level you are looking for? Then the other context that you can set is the project or the business scenario, which is in most of the cases we go with this one with the project and the business scenario, which is what is the larger initiative this task is part of. Scenario context prevents your generic answers, which you miss in the actual problem. So, if you could have gone with a basic one without giving a business scenario, you could have missed out on what you actually wanted to look at. It could have given you a generic solution. But since you went ahead and gave a scenario, this context is going to prevent from getting generic. This is a very important part. This is what we use mostly. Then you have no constraints, like no the known constraints, like what limitations, blockers, or fixed conditions already exist. So for any LLM, when it is generating an answer, it might not know exactly what are the constraints, right? It will give you a complete answer. But if you go ahead and apply the constraints, it knows what I don't have to answer. So it will help you with that part. So these are the known constraints. So providing known constraints prevents AI from suggesting infeasible solutions. And the current state, which is again very important as to where does the situation stand right now. The current state helps the AI to understand the gap between now and what is the goal that you're trying to achieve. So it is not necessary that you use all the 8 different types of context prompting together. You can apply some of them together. You can apply just a single one of it, depending on what task you're trying to do. You can go ahead and use a single, combine them, use multiple of them. These are a total 8 different types of context that you can apply in context prompting. Now, why context matters? So context matters again because it helps you to evolve the prompt to give you answers which are related to the situation which you're actually working from. So in case, let us say that you give the example, explain linear regression. Now, if you see here, there is no context. It's just a simple question, explain linear regression. So what does it do? It gives you a textbook definition. It covers the equation, assumptions, and a generic answer or an example maybe suitable for a specific audience and useful to no one in particular. Well, it is very generic, so yeah, it might not be useful to anyone in particular. But if I go ahead and say explain linear regression to a complete beginner, now you have set a context, right? You have added an audience here. That the person is a complete beginner. So the analogies appear, mathematics disappears because for a complete beginner, you just cannot go ahead and give a complete linear regression equation. You need to explain it first and then you start with the mathematics around. So it says imagine drawing the best fit straight line through a scattered points. Vocabulary shifts from statistical to conversational. So this is how the context is changing the result. Then you have domain plus audience context. We have added both of them. So explain linear regression to MBA students who understand business but have no statistics background. So now grounded in business knowledge. So example, predicting sales from advertising spend, forecasting revenue from headcount, statistical terms replaced with profit and loss and strategy analog. So if you see here, this is for MBA students. So you see the way the answer is gradually changing depending on the context that you're giving. Now I have added domain, I have added the audience, and the goal context is also added. So explain linear regression to a data analyst working in a marketing team. They need to use it to predict campaign ROI from ad spend across 5 channels. So what can we say? It is going to be immediately practical because it is going to be for a data analyst who's working in a marketing team. It covers multivariate regression for multiple channels, coefficient interpretation for spend decisions, and how to present a slope to a business uh, level to a CMO. Now, theory is minimal, application here is everything. So, it is going more towards the application and lesser towards your theory part of what is the regression coefficient, what is intercept. It's not explaining anything. It's not going ahead and telling you that raw best fit line across the scattered points. It's not going and telling you the statistics of what it is. It is simply telling you how and what it has to cover and how it has to be presented to a CMO. Now, the next one that we are looking at is domain plus audience plus goal plus experience level plus current state. So I have mixed 5 of them here. So, explain linear regression to experienced Python developers transitioning into machine learning. Python developers transitioning into machine learning. So that becomes your audience. They are comfortable with NumPy and Pandas, but have never implemented a regression model. So you are going ahead and telling them what is their current state. The goal is to give them enough understanding, implement it from scratch using scikit-learn, and interpret the output for a product team. So you have gone ahead and told the domain, you have set the audience, you have set the goal, what you want, you set the experience level, you also told what is their current state. So this assumes programming fluency. It skips Python syntax basics. So obviously that is a waste of time if a person already knows Python, right? So in this case, what it is doing it is skipping the Python syntax basics. Shows the scikit-learn API explains, or not the API, I would say it as the library that we are looking at. It will talk about the scikit-learn library. Explain the coefficients in terms of product manager cares about, covers R square, the p values, and one sentence each, and includes a short code block with inline comments. Precisely what this specific audience needs, right? So it is more about how to implement it. I know Python. I know how to write a code in Python. What I'm looking for is how to just implement sklearn. What should be the data? How should I implement? What are the steps I should do, and how I should come up with a final. So that is what is explained here. If you notice here, in all these cases, we had only the same task. We just had 5 different context levels, and the output was from very generic going to very specific depending on the context how we built it. Let us try to explain why our model accuracy dropped from 92% to 78% with 5 different contexts. The first one that you see does not have any context, and I'm trying to run explain why your model accuracy dropped from 92% to 78%. So it tells me that these are the data quality issues, possible introduction of noisy or incorrect data in the training set. Then it is overfitting, which is model may have become too complex, learning noise rather than patterns. And then you have a feature drift, with changes in the underlying data distribution over time, and insufficient training, that not enough training data or epochs leading to a poor generalization. So this is a very, very generic answer whenever a model overfits or a model drops its performance. But let us try to understand that from a different context. I am a data science student who just finished a logistic regression project. My model accuracy dropped from 92% to 78% after I added new training data. Explain why this might have happened and what I should check. So, what does it do? It goes ahead and gives a complete context of who the person is, what was the task, current state that has been done, and what is the goal. So it tells you that for data quality, ensure that the new training data is clean and free of errors or inconsistencies. Poor quality data can degrade model performance. Data quality, like ensure that the new training data is clean and free of errors and inconsistencies. Poor quality can degrade your model performance. Another thing can be data distribution. Check if the new data has different distribution than the original data set. Obviously, when the distribution is different, it can change. Changes in feature distribution can lead to performance drops. Overfitting is the initial model might have overfitted on the original data set, and adding diverse data could expose this issue. And then you have feature importance, which says reevaluate the features used in your models. New data might reveal that some features are less relevant and introduce noise. So that is a very well explained way to a student who is trying to learn and see things exactly how it works. Now, let's go with the third one, which says the context is that I am a senior data scientist in a fintech company. Our customer churn model accuracy dropped from 92% to 78% after last month's uh, update changed several user behavior features. Explain why this happened and what we should do before presenting the findings to the VP of the product. So this is pretty much clear whom you have to go ahead and present it. What is the current profile, where the person is working, what is the model that was there, and what actually triggered the change. So it can think exactly on those lines. Just set a complete context over here. So it says the possible reason for the accuracy drop could be feature drift, where changes in the user behavior may have rendered previous features less relevant or invalid. You could have model overfitting, where the model might have been too tailored to previous data, failing to generalize with new behavior. Data quality issues, that the new data from the product update may contain noise or inconsistencies, and insufficient training data, where the model might not have been retrained on the latest user behavior pattern. Now, what are the recommended actions? Is analyze the feature importance, retrain the model, evaluate new features, and prepare visuals and matrix, where you should create clear visualization and matrix to illustrate changes and justify recommendations for the VP. Again, it is why a model accuracy dropped from 92 to 78%. So we have been using this, right? We sometimes use this unknowingly, setting up a context. But now, since we're going through this, we are trying to understand that context actually matters, and changing the context will change the type of results that. Let's say here, you go ahead with I'm a machine learning researcher publishing a paper on model robustness. A benchmark model accuracy dropped from 92 to 78% when evaluated on a OOD test set, which is an out of distribution test set from a different demographic. Explain this drop in terms of relevant to a peer reviewed publication on model generalization. Now, when you look at this, when you talk about the out of distribution test or the domain shift that has happened, out of distribution means it was not a part of the distribution, and then they are testing it on a new data set, which is a OD data set, which is a completely new data set. Okay, so that was not a part of the distribution. That is a OD data set, which is the OD test set. May exhibit different statistical properties compared to the training data, leading to mismatch that affects model performance. The model might have overfitted on the training demographic, capturing noise rather than generalizable patterns, resulting in poor performance or unseen data. Then you can have feature discrepancy, where critical features that influence predictions may vary significantly between the training and OD data, causing the model to misinterpret or ignore relevant signs. And you can have a robustness evaluation, where the drop underscores the need for evaluating robustness across diverse demographics to ensure reliable generalizations in the real world example. Now, I did read through this, but if you look at it again, the way it has been explained is pretty different as compared to how it was for different contexts. Now, let's try to look at this one, where I say that I have a senior data science interview next week. Interviewer is likely to ask me why a model's accuracy dropped from 92 to 78% after deployment. Give me a structured answer I can deliver verbally in under 2 minutes, covering the most common cause and how I should diagnose each. So here you are again setting the context that you are preparing for an interview and you're putting a constraint that it should be under 2 minutes. That is what you're looking for. Go ahead and see the response. So here you see data drift, what is the explanation and the diagnosis? Model overfitting, what is the explanation and the diagnosis? Feature engineering issues, the explanation and the diagnosis, as well as operational environmental changes, the explanation and the diagnosis. In summary, I would systematically analyze these aspects to identify the root cause of the accuracy drop and then implement appropriate solutions to rectify. If you look at this, this is way pretty much from an interview point of view, exactly how the LLM has responded. So we just saw that when we went with a different context of when we did not give any context, we used the context of a student for business, for research, as well as for interview prep. The results were very different of what we were getting. Now, let us try to understand the professional applications of context prompting. Let's say that if I am into data analytics and I am a senior data analyst presenting a monthly churn matrix to a non-technical CMO. Uh, the data is from Salesforce and BigQuery. Our churn rate increased 3% versus last quarter. So what it will do is it will produce an executive summary with business language and not a statistical output. Similarly, you can go with software development, report writing, presentation creation, resume review, research assistance. So I'll just pick one of them. Let's say I'm taking this one. So I'm writing a quarterly performance report for a board of directors. The audience has financial background but no data science experience. The data covers four product lines across three markets. You set a context. You told what is the assumption of the audience knowledge. You told who are the audience whom you're finally going to present. So the report uses business framing, not data science vocabulary, highlights decisions and not the methods. Right? So context becomes really important when you are going ahead and writing a prompt. Now there are common mistakes which are done when you're writing prompts. So one is without providing any background, like summarize this idea. There's no context that was given. Missing audience, AI picks up wrong vocabulary. Obviously, we saw that when we were giving the audience, the way it was answering was very different. So missing audience is again important. You should not write like explain the results of a A/B test. Go ahead and write it for whom. Whom are you trying to present to? Right. So you need an audience. So missing business scenario. So if you miss the business scenario, you don't have a solution to the problem because you never asked the problem basically. You just gave it a random question, not the problem. You should explain the question with the context and then it becomes a problem statement. Right? Now, missing project objective, like review the Python script. Fine. For what? I will review it, but what is the script for? You need to tell me what is the objective. Assuming AI knows the situation from the previous prompts. Now, this is a very common mistake where people go ahead and assume that I am writing in continuation, so it remembers it. In certain cases, yes, if you're using paid versions, if you're using tabs and you're on the same tab, it will remember for some time, but eventually it again forgets. It's not that it will remember it for the entire context. So it eventually forgets. So it is a good practice that you keep on reminding it, even if you're on the same tab. After a few steps, go ahead and remind it, or go ahead and put a constraint which you were doing. Go ahead and remind it. It will keep on following the rules. Or it is more like a child whom you have gone ahead and told something to do, but when the child is too energetic, it forgets exactly what were the guardrails, what you said not to do, what limitation it had to do, and it start doing the same things again. Right. So you have to keep on telling it before it learns. So this is the same way you have to go ahead and keep on reminding AI what to do and what not to do. Do not assume that it will remember the things from the past all the time. Providing irrelevant context and that obscures the real request. Yes, this is also not a very good idea where you should go ahead and give irrelevant context. Right? Like I am a 34-year-old professional who lives in Bangalore, completed my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad in 2015, currently working in the retail sector. Also, I prefer bullet points, write a SQL query to find duplicate customer records. Now, this has no no connection with where you live, uh, what education you had, where you worked, how many years you worked. Since it is said that you should be going ahead and giving it an audience, you should be giving it a person who is actually working on it. What is the role that you're trying to give it? That does not mean that you go ahead and give every detail so explicitly, which is not required. So it needs to have a connect. It needs to have a connect. Now, some of the best practices in context prompting is include only context that changes the answer. Describe the audience specifically. State the goal behind the task. Include known constraints upfront. Describe the current state when relevant. Keep context factual, not evaluative, and make each prompt self contained. And this is significantly going to help you in building better prompts. Let's look at this. We can go with a context quality test. So before submitting a prompt, you can ask yourself these three questions. You can mark them as bullet points and have it in front of you. And while you're writing prompts, where who is the audience and do they know that? If AI does not know who will use the output, it targets a generic reader. We saw that before, right? That if it doesn't know whom I am going to present the output, it's going to give a generic output. What is the role behind this task? And what situation or constraints make this different from the default one? If you have this in front of you, I believe with 10 or 15 prompts that you write for your daily work, you'll see that you will improve the way you're writing, and you'll be able to mention the context more precisely and get much better results. Now, let's try to see this where what happens with before versus after the as the way we have done it in the previous videos. So if I'm not giving any context and I say act as a senior data scientist, write a recommendation for how we should handle missing values in a data set. So it lists five standard imputation techniques: mean, median, mode, KNN, and multiple imputation. No prioritization. It can be applicable to any data set. So basically, it is just giving a generic answer. If you add a audience over here, you can say that act as a senior data scientist, write a recommendation for how we should handle missing values in a data set. The audience is a junior analytics team with basic Python skills. So now it recommends mean median imputation first and explains why. It avoids KNN and mice because they are a bit more advanced parts. So it does not go there. It sticks to the basic one. It includes pandas code and it explains when to use each method rather than just listing them. This gets better. Now you go ahead and give the audience plus dataset context. So act as a senior data scientist, write a recommendation for how we handle missing values in a dataset. The audience is junior analytics team with basic Python skills, and the dataset is customer transaction data with 2 million rows and 15% missing values in the income and age columns. Right? So you gave it some understanding of the data. Now, 2 million rows is not a small data to work on. So it tries to scale this, now address this. There are 2 million rows, so avoid row deletion. Flags that income age, income and age are likely missing at random. Now, what is MAR? When you talk about missing values, basically it is classified into three parts: MCAR, MAR, and MNAR. This is one of them. So I have talked about it in my other videos, which is on machine learning. For now, I'll not dive deep into what is MAR. So just it is a method of understanding where this missing value is classified. And based on the missing value classification, we try on looking at how the missing value should be. Now, since it is MAR, it recommends grouped median by customer segment rather than the global median, mentions the impact of 15% missingness on the model. Now, that is again trying to understand the data set and the audience together. Now, what I'm doing is audience plus data set plus goal plus constraint context added. So, what we saw here is that we had the same role, the same task, just the context changed, right? For the four different examples, the context change and the output goes from a generic list to a production ready, compliance aware recommendation with code purely from adding context. So, what it means is we just added the role, we just added the same task. None of it changed. The only thing that changed was changing the context. And you see, the way we got results was very different and it evolved over time. Now, one of the most powerful combinations that we are going to look at is combining the role and the context. Now, what is role? If you would have not seen the video, you can go ahead and look at the video. I'll put the link on the top right corner of your screen. And where we talked about role is telling about how the data needs to be filtered from all the results of the LLM that it is giving you based on what it has to act as, what it should be, the experience, what should be the base knowledge, and whom you're presenting again. So this is what we had talked about in the role section. So here we are saying that act as a senior data scientist, right? The situation is, the context is our churn model is live in production and accuracy dropped after a platform migration. Now, if I just go ahead and use a role only, which does not have a context, what does it say? Act as a senior data scientist. How should we improve our model? Simple, right? It's a role. It has no context at all. So what it will give you, it will give you general ML best practices, feature engineering, CV cross validation, hyperparameter tuning, and how to correct any model. Right? Nothing specific as such, exactly what you require. When you talk about context only, what it says, what is the prompt you're giving? A churn prediction model accuracy dropped from 91 to 76 or 78, whatever you saw it, after migrating from on-prem MySQL database to a cloud data warehouse. How should we improve our model? So you gave a complete context. So better now focused on data migration issues, pipeline integrity, schema changes, data type casting errors, but the depth of vocabulary may not match what a data scientist needs. Right? Because it is just a migration that has happened, so it will concentrate only on the migration if it knows about the context. But what if I combine both of them? What if I combine role and what if I can combine context? So what am I doing here is act as a senior data scientist with experience in production ML systems. Our churn prediction model accuracy dropped from 91 to 75, sorry, 76% after migrating from on-prem MySQL to Google BigQuery. The model was retrained on the new data after migration. The business needs a root cause analysis and a recovery plan that can be presented to the CTO within 48 hours. How should we approach this? If you look at this, it has gone ahead and set the role. It went ahead and set the entire context, and it has set the audience exactly where you are going to go to present as well as a constraint. Now, what it will do, it will look at the structured diagnostic framework, data pipeline validation first, then training data integrity check, then the feature distribution comparison pre and post migration, recommend specific BigQuery versus MySQL data type checks like timestamp, time zone handling, float precision, provides a 48-hour action plan with owners, CTO ready summary language included, exactly what the situation requires. So it will go through each and every topic from your data pipeline till your migration checklist, and it will try to see where you might have missed things, how you are going to improve the result. So role plus context, it is not additive, actually it becomes multiplicative, that because it makes it very very strong to understand exactly what the context is and how to filter out the data based on the role and give you a much precise answer. So, what takeaways do we have from this session today? Is that context reduces ambiguity, context improves relevance, context reduces wasted output, audience context is the single highest impact addition. Context is not the same as length. Obviously, when you write a context, it becomes long, but the purpose is not to make it long. The purpose is to explain every storyline behind what is the prompt that you're writing, as we discussed in the entire video today. Um, then, role plus context together eliminate the assumption gap. That is very true, because once you explicitly say about the role, then you explicitly say about the context, and you combine them together. It tells that what is it that you are expecting, what is the situation, who it has supposed to be, and who is your audience. Everything combined together does not have any assumption gap left, and it gives you much better results. So that is all that we have for context prompting. And in the next session, what we are going to look at is constraint prompting. So if you have liked this video, please do like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.